Hi everybody, in today's live I am going to be talking to you about stop, you need a plan. And I'm going to be talking to you about that in respect of decluttering, because I see time and time again people getting overwhelmed with the concept of decluttering. And a lot of the reason is they've got a lot to do and they don't necessarily plan it out. But before I jump into that, for those of you who don't know me, my name's Carol Hanson. I inspire women who have a wardrobe full of clothes but nothing to wear. Help them to look and feel fabulous every time they get dressed. Now, today I am running this live via Restream. So if you do pop any comments in the comments section, I can't actually see the chat that's going on unless you've authorized Restream. I can't see who's making the comments. So great to have you on board, and I will check the comments and answer any questions later. If you are hello Facebook user that you've made it, that's fantastic, thank you. I will come back and check and respond to any comments later. Please, if you've got any questions, do pop them in the chat. I'm going to be giving you quite a lot of information about where to sell clothes secondhand towards the end of this live. And hi Jennifer, great to have you on the call. I'm going to be giving quite a lot of information about different sites and options for reselling clothes towards the end of this live. I'm going to pop some links in the comments as well, because I think that will probably be too much just to give you the names and you have to hurriedly scribble them all down. So let's talk about decluttering. In my mind, people either jump on to decluttering, they get so hacked off maybe with the clutter that they've got, they jump onto it, they get started, they get part way through, and then they run out of energy, or they get stressed, they get overwhelmed by it, it just all feels too much. Or alternatively, you just don't get started because it all feels too much. You haven't got the time, you haven't got the energy. And although you know that it's going to feel good when you've done it, it just feels all too overwhelming. So let's talk about that plan in the first place. That plan in the first place is to have your vision and your purpose. So why is it that you want to declutter in the first place? If it's just to get rid of stuff, that's, as most of us know, if we're goal setting for our businesses, that's all a bit too vague. You need something that is a little bit more concrete. And what I would say is you may be motivated by something bigger. You may be motivated by maybe you're moving house, maybe you're downsizing, or maybe you're just simply fed up of wearing the same small selection of your wardrobe time and time again. And you know you need to make a change. And part of that change is going to be decluttering. So ask yourself why you are decluttering and have that reason really clear. Have your vision as to what it's going to be like after you've decluttered. You're going to have a wardrobe full and not jammed full of clothes that you love to wear. You're going to be able to create more outfits from less clothes because you can see what you've got. You're going to be able to organize your wardrobe more effectively. And you're going to discover those gems in there that you haven't touched base with for a long time. Maybe they've been hidden in the back of your wardrobe and maybe you even forgot that you had them. So that kind of vision of knowing what it is you want to achieve is really important. It's also, I mean, decluttering is more than just getting physical space. It's more than just getting organized. It has a hell of an impact on your energy and your mental state as well. So it can be really freeing to do some decluttering and then to be able to look proudly at the results afterwards. Then get a bit more practical. What is it that you do need to declutter? If it's just a wardrobe, then do you need to section that down? Do you need to say, okay, well, today I'm going to do coats and jackets. Tomorrow I'm going to do dresses. Or are you going to have a really big splurge on it and try and do it all at once because you know that you've got the time available? But that can equally be quite exhausting to do that. If you've got more than one wardrobe, maybe you've got other drawers and stuff as well, maybe you've got clothes hidden under the bed, whatever, in boxes, whatever, have a plan as to what needs doing and list those down and have an idea. And it only needs to be a rough idea of when you're going to do those things. And set yourself the time aside. Mark it out in your diary, because it makes it so much easier if you just make it that it is, you block that time out in your diary and you're going to do it. And if you find decluttering as a struggle, then do it for just a short period of time each time. Yes, doing it in bite-sized chunks can be a lot less overwhelming than trying to do a whole lot at once. So maybe consider just doing a drawer at a time or part of your wardrobe at a time. Maybe you do a seasonal wardrobe at a time if you want to do something bigger. You've got to really work out what works for you. And as I said, maybe set aside a time. Maybe set yourself, I'm going to do half an hour or an hour, and put a timer on to do that and see how much you achieve in that time. And then maybe the next time you have a go and you use the same time, see if you can get a bit further with it. Have a competition against yourself. So you may now be really rushing to want to get on with that decluttering, but I'm going to say to you, stop there. Don't do it yet. What you want to do is work out what you're going to do with that clutter afterwards. Because I know the temptation is just to stick it all in bin bags and drive off down to the local charity shop, clothing bank or whatever and just dump it there. And obviously not closed and giving it to someone and all the rest of it, because I'm sure we've all seen the horror pictures of people dumping stuff outside charity shops, particularly during lockdown. But have a plan as to what you're going to do with those clothes afterwards, because that will help you set it in your mind and make it an awful lot easier. So are you going to donate clothes? And we'll talk about donations in a minute. Have you got things that you might want to sell? Are you looking to possibly repurpose some clothes and get some more use out of them? Or recycle really worn clothes or items that you know aren't suitable for donation? Or maybe you want to swap clothes as well. Maybe you want to have a clothing swap among friends, or as lockdown eases, maybe there's some local charity events will start up again. That can be a really great way. I'm not encouraging you to get more clothes in your wardrobe, but it can be a really great way of extending the life of clothes. Now let's just talk about donations for a moment. Donations are great, but what I think you really do need to understand is if you're donating to your local charity shops on the high street, or you're going through the curbside collections, that only about 20% of what you donate is actually going to sell through those outlets. 20%. Why? Well, it's twofold. One is the quality of the items that they receive. Not everything can be resold. Now, I've not worked behind the scenes in a charity shop, but I've heard some horror stories from people that have, in terms of some of the items that people take in. Now, I know that anyone who's joining me on this live is going to make sure that their items are great quality and they're not just going to donate anything. Yes, I love that idea, a swap session with a charity donation, an elite swap session. Thank you. So I know that you will donate the right quality clothes, but quantity. Charity shops just can't handle the amount of things that we are getting rid of. They will still accept them because they will still make some money from them. Anything that doesn't get sold through the shops will simply be sold off to wholesalers. But what happens to it then? Well, the majority of it goes overseas, and still goes overseas to, very often, to sub-Saharan countries, although that is now, and many of the sub-Saharan countries are saying, no, we won't take any more from you. When it gets to those sub-Saharan countries, it is sold on second-hand markets. If it can't be sold, it ends up in landfill. And it can end up in landfill in this country as well, but just because everything gets too overwhelming. Now, I know that when you're getting rid of your clothes, you don't want to think of the idea of them ending up in landfill. And that's why I say you need to be very careful about who you're going to donate to. And what I always say to people is, do your research again. So think about the types of clothes. So if you've got good quality clothes, maybe you've changed your lifestyle, maybe you've left the corporate world, you've set up your own business, and you now have a more relaxed lifestyle in terms of your wardrobe. Then your good quality clothes that you may have worn to the office, or more corporate wear, because let's face it, even within the office world, we're getting more casual now. What do you do with that? Well, there are 3 great charities you could donate to. They are SmartWorks, Suited and Booted, and Suited for Success. All of those charities help people who are out of work and are looking for work. And with SmartWorks in particular, because I know more about them than anyone else, what they do is they coach people for interviews. They help them get their CVs ready, and they also help them dress for their interview. And the lovely thing is that if they are successful in getting that job, they allow them to keep the clothes as well. So they offer a fantastic service, and I'm pretty sure that the other 2 do a similar thing. If you've got clothes that are kind of, I suppose, normal, everyday, more casual clothes, and you want to donate them, the first thing I would do would be to look at women's refuges locally to you, or homeless charities. That way, the clothes are going to go direct to the end users, people who really need them. Rather than, as I said, them ending up with only a small percentage of them getting sold through the retail stores, and the rest of them ending up God knows where. So those would be my suggestions for donations. And the other thing to look at would be possibly the Salvation Army, but I would talk to them. What I'm encouraging you to do is go local, investigate what is available in your area before you do anything else. And again, start this before you're decluttering, because then when you do declutter, you can put the clothes in the appropriate piles for where they're going to end up. And one last point on donations is that there are charities that do take underwear as well, and I mean bras. Smalls for All, Bras for a Cause, and Against Breast Cancer. Now, if they're not reusing those bras, they are able to utilise them in other ways. So I would always recommend going to one of those charities. So dig deep, do your research, and the other one last place, sorry, I should have mentioned to look at would be to look at local churches, find out what's going on in your area. There may be that local churches know who needs clothes, or they may have their own sort of mini place where they can collect clothes and give them to people that are needed. But again, it is look local and see what's required in your area. And the textile recycling, so for poor quality clothes, again, don't let them end up in landfill by putting them in your non-recycling bins that go out with the rubbish, but find a textile bin or recycling centre. They can often be in the local supermarkets, car parks and things like that, or down at the household waste sites. Those will at least end up getting broken down and used for insulation and other things where the textiles don't matter in terms of the quality. So now let's move on to selling clothes secondhand. So it might seem like it's a bit of a fag. It might seem as though it's, you want to get rid of those clothes straight away, and I quite understand that. And selling clothes online isn't necessarily going to be the quickest way of getting them out of your house, but it can actually make you some money. Now, first thing I would say is that you need to be quite careful about your expectations in terms of how much money you're going to make. So think about the quality of the goods. Are they branded? And it doesn't have to be designer, but high street labels. Are they unbranded? That will help you decide where you're going to sell. If you want to get rid of stuff quickly, then you may well price for that. And think about the different options. Are you going to do it yourself, or are you going to use somewhere that has what's called a concierge service to do it for you? So if you're doing it yourself, then there's obviously a bit more onus on you to get the photographs right, the listing right, and we'll talk about that in a second. If you're using concierge service, which some of the sites I'm going to mention will have, then they will do it all for you. But of course, you can expect a little bit less money to come back, but your items may well sell more quickly. So where do you go to sell clothes secondhand? Well, if you want to get rid of clothes quite quickly and you're quite happy to accept quite a low price, then I would look first of all at Facebook Marketplace. It can be a great way to turn around clutter really quickly, and not just clothes, but anything that you're trying to get rid of. It's local, people can come around, pick it up, and it's all done and dusted very quickly. If you are looking to get rid of stuff online, it will take, as I said, it will take you a bit longer, but you need to pick your sites carefully. So eBay is obviously one of the biggest selling sites, and what I would recommend is if you've got unbranded clothes at all, and again, I'm not just talking about unbranded as in a designer label, but branded in any respect, then eBay is probably not the right place for you to sell on, because it's a very big marketplace. Even if it's been bought in a lovely little boutique somewhere, and you're not quite sure of the label, or there's nothing else listed on eBay, then I would say that could be quite difficult unless you are an experienced eBay seller. eBay is great for anything that's branded, because a lot of people will search for, they won't go searching for a red dress, for example, but they may search for a Karen Millen red dress. So that's why it's a lot easier to niche down if you're using something like eBay. If you're looking at other sites that are more specific on clothes, if it's for a younger market, then I would certainly consider Depop. I know people who have, or students that have funded their university education by selling clothes on Depop. I would also consider Vinted. And another one that has sprung up, which is called Fairly .io. And again, I will put these in the comments section under this live, so you don't need to remember the names if you can't. If you're looking for charity sites, so some of you may know I am a brand ambassador for Thrift Plus, which sells on behalf of charities, but it takes donations from the public. Then that can be a good way, because you're donating your clothes, you get them out of your house quite quickly. They go off to Thrift Plus, who then list and photograph them for you. So you don't need to worry about any of that. Refashion is another site that does that as well. Now, they may sell or they may not. You won't get the clothes back. At the end of the period that they agree for sale, and in Thrift Plus's case, that is 6 months, then the clothes will be donated on to charity to see whether they can sell at a local level, or then the charity has the option to do what they like with them. If you've got higher end goods, then I would recommend the following sites. Vestair Collective, which, although they're French based, is a European site, and Next Closet, which is another one which is EU based, but take donations, and you can list goods on their site very easily. Rebel, and in the US, ThreadUp and Poshmark. And one more, sorry, Vide Dressing as well. Now, most of these services have a concierge service, which is a do-it-for-you service, or they have you do it yourself. Now, obviously, the advantages of using the concierge service are they will take the photographs for you, they will list the goods. The downside is you're not going to get so much money for the goods, but it may be a much quicker way of selling your goods as well, unless you are an experienced online seller. And maybe you do a bit of a mixture. What I would always say is get out there and have a look at the various sites, see what types of products they sell, and if it seems appropriate, then do some research for the items you're looking to sell. Do some research on those sites to see what sort of prices, and then check out what they need in terms of photographs if you're going to do it yourself. Now, number one rule, make sure that if you're going to photograph clothes for selling online, that you iron them first. I was on one website this morning and I couldn't believe it that they got tops on there that were just all crumpled up. And it wasn't the fabric, they just simply hadn't been ironed. Who's going to want to buy something like that? Make sure that you're taking good quality photographs. The most difficult thing to do when you're photographing clothes is to get the colour right. As we know, colours change on camera. You might not believe it, but this top that I'm wearing is actually a sort of sky blue. It looks more white on the camera, doesn't it, and with the lighting. So make sure that you're using natural light, you're photographing on a pretty neutral background, and also check the rules for what the site wants in terms of photographs. When you're listing the goods, make sure you give as much detail as possible. So make sure you get the size right, obviously. The colour, make sure that even if you can't get the colour as accurate as you would like on the photographs, then make sure that you are describing the colour. Make the description as detailed as possible, and make it that you are adding as much information as possible. One of the most frustrating things I find on some websites is that if you're looking at dresses, for example, they will say mini, midi or maxi. Well, that's great, but if I'm 5'4", which I'm not, I'm taller than that, a mini dress, midi dress and maxi dress is going to be different if I'm 5'10". I'm not that either. But the point is, if you had the length on there, then it would make an awful lot more sense. So give as much detail as you can within the description. Be really honest about the condition of the goods. If there is slight marks, if there are slight signs of wear, make sure you photograph those and show them and highlight them. People will respect your honesty on that. And it's much better than trying to have a disagreement with someone after they purchase something and they don't think that you've listed it properly because it's not accurate because of the condition. And also list the composition as well, the fabric. That's also important too. So make sure it's accurate, make sure it's as detailed as possible. But if you're new to all of this, I would thoroughly recommend that you try stuff out using a concierge service as well within these websites, particularly if you are selling designer labels, because there will be a question of authenticity too. That most of these sites will offer you an authentic for the buyer an authentication process to go through. So even if you're selling through some of those sites that I've mentioned, such as Vestair, for example, or the Next Closet, when the goods get to a certain value, even if you're selling them yourself, you will not be sending the goods direct to the client when they purchase them. You will be sending them to the website company who will, or the brand that will check them out to check that they are authentic as well. So those are things to consider. The other thing you could consider would be consignment. So this is going through a pre-loved boutique, and I can name a couple of them for you. One is Melanie McCarthy is a member of this group. She runs Brockhurst Boutique, which is over in Chesham, and also I always forget the ladies' names, Vintage and Vogue, who are based down near Beaconsfield as well, and they're also members of this group too. They're great places where effectively what you are doing is you're giving their goods to them. They're not going to pay for them. They will keep them for a certain period of time, and they will market them for you within their boutiques, which are physical as well as social media as well. They will display them for X period of time. Some boutiques will charge a hanger rental. Others will simply take a commission on sale. So it's always best to check out with the boutique owners. The nice thing about those consignment stores is that they won't take stock in if they don't think they can sell it. They know their market, they know their clients, and it's very much about understanding and making sure that they get goods for that will work for their clients too. And the two boutiques I've mentioned, they're both really experienced in what they're doing and know what their clients want. So I hope that's been helpful. And if anyone has got any questions, I can see that been a little bit of chatting through the chat function, then please leave them in the comments and I will come back and answer them. And I will also put the links to the various websites I've mentioned in the comments as well. But as I said, please feel free to ask me any questions if you've got them. And if you're watching this on replay, I will be checking back in over the weekend to see whether there's any questions come up from there. I hope you now have a wonderful weekend, and good luck with any decluttering projects that you've got. So thanks very much for joining me today if you joined me live. Bye for now.